fast.
Y'all gonna enjoy me while y'all can, because when 3 weeks is up, man, I ain't up here yapping my gums, bro. Y'all gonna miss me, especially you, Benjamin.
Too?
Huh?
Can I get some of that coffee too, bro?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead and get some of that coffee.
I think it was
So I want to stay out of the way because y'all are gonna get out of here early today for what? Food boxes. Everybody know where they're going, right? You ain't been there yet, Bernard? Are you walking?
What's going on? I have a bike, so I can't carry anything.
You can go and pick bags. So there's two lines. There's lines where if you have a car, you get the full experience. But if you're just on foot, there's the line. Has anyone of y'all went to the line and you just got bags you can carry?
I actually got a box. I walked out.
And you can carry the box. Hey, I don't know, Bernard. I don't know how your balance is, but back in the day, we used to get on the bike, man, have the backpack on, but still have either your homie sitting on the front or put and so you hold it like this. You can get, if you really want that food, you're going to be able to get it, bro.
Amen.
You see how you just use that pen as a resource to mix up your coffee right there? You don't have to be resourceful, brother. Yeah. Bang. You know what it is, or you have to equal out the weight when you put the bags on the handlebars, and sometimes it's so much weight that you can barely get it up there.
Keep turning. You turn this way like that.
You get wobbly.
I did that 8 months pregnant.
Hey, Benjamin looking like Trey, man. What the heck is you talking about right now?
That's a lot of balance, though. But you do what you got to do. You know?
All right, y'all. Listen, hear me out real quick. So, y'all have really been blessed this week. Y'all have a number of guest speakers in here. Today's really special for me because I can sit here and tell you that this individual right here, he sowed so much into my life, man. I don't just say that. I want to say that he's one of the reasons why I'm even here doing what it is that I do. Helped me to get out of my comfort zone. Helped to give me that constructive criticism when it was needed, and I was able to accept the things in which it is that he told me. And not just that, but to see the motivation and drive that he has, that he still has till today. I won't tell you exactly where we met. That's a story for him, to give. But I just want y'all to know that, man, I really appreciate this, man. And those are the types of individuals, like I told you before, that I want to bring in here that have actually been through it and are actually doing it right now. But even more importantly, that actually really love, not just in the job that they do, but just when they're out there in the world, man, they just love. So I'm going to just go ahead and let this man love on y'all. I would hope that you would love and respect him as well. Let's go ahead and give him a hand of applause for being here. Brother, your image went down. Do you want me to put it back up, or you good?
Yeah, we good.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, big dog.
Nah, thank you, man. First off, I'm honored to be here. He said a lot of cool things about me, but none of that stuff is true. Because the reality is that we all got to be our own cheerleaders and our own motivators. My mentor used to tell me that motivation is like deodorant. It works best if you use it every day. And so this man, on his own accord, gets up every day and has been motivated since I met him. To tell you a little bit about me and him and how we met, and also it'll kind of, in conjunction, let you know a little bit about me. I met him when we were in prison. I met him at Steiner in 2015. I had just got sentenced to 8 years for aggravated DUI, a crime in which I didn't kill anybody, I didn't hit anybody, didn't hit a car, I didn't hit the curb. But because of the person I had been leading up to that, they were like, yeah, you deserve to get 8 years for drinking and driving. And that's exactly what happened. And so they gave me 8 years, and then they sent me to this place called Stickum Steiner, where everybody's there doing life. They're murdering, killing, all that crazy stuff. And I'm just here, little old me with a DUI. And I happened to meet this brother while I was there. And the exact same thing he said about me, I would say about him. Because coming into that place in my life, I was torn. I was broken. I had already done a lot of time leading up to that. I had done up to that point, I think probably about 8 years in prison. Not all straight. I was kind of like on the installment plan. I do a little bit here, a little bit there, come back, give him a little bit more time. And so by the time I got there, my son had just turned 5. I had walked away from businesses, my wife, like so many different things. My life was it was in disarray. I didn't know what to do. And I met him. He was running a Bible study, and he was doing the best job that he could. But he poured into me the same way that he says I poured into him. So it's kind of the mindset of iron sharpens iron. There's a thing where somebody said that if you get one Arabian horse on its own, it can probably tow about 10 to 12,000 pounds by itself. But if you get two, they can pull over 30,000 pounds. Now, how is it that one can only pull about 10, maybe 12, and two could pull over 30? Because when you're around people that are like-minded, that are trying to do the same thing, you feed off each other. You get that energy, right? And that's what happened. We were in a place to where there was a bunch of brothers that were trying to do the best that they could to change their lives. And that's what happened. We ended up pouring into each other. And what we were able to do has kind of translated into what we're doing now. Right? He's working here. I do a bunch of different things. I've been out of prison now 2 years. I got out about October of 2021, just after COVID, and I hit the ground running. I ain't looked back since. And so I'll kind of share a little bit about my story and who I am, but I just want you guys to know a couple of things up front. I know the community partners that come in here. I've had an opportunity to mingle with some of them. I've been here when all of the community partners are together. I'm not like any of those community partners because I don't have anything to offer. I don't represent an organization. I don't represent a company. I don't have services that I'm here to bring. I can't say, hey, man, you can come and stay at my house. I got a sober living place. We're passing out food boxes. The only thing I'm doing is I'm just coming to share a story, and I extend myself wherever I can, wherever I can, or however I can. Because at the end of the day, I believe a rising tide floats all boats. But it was the fact that I found someone in my life that I could look to and I could lean on. And I decided at that junction that I would try to be that for everybody else that I came in contact with that needed it. So I don't have an organization. He had a little thing up there, a little logo. That's not an organization I represent. That's just the seal for some land that's me and a couple of my buddies bought. But I appreciate you guys being here. I really do. I appreciate you guys being here and taking the time. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, born and raised. I've lived here my entire life. And I started getting in trouble with the law at 12. The first time I ever went to jail, I was 12. And it just was a perpetual cycle from there. Next thing you know, at 14, I'm going away to do a year. I get out. At 16, I'm going away to do another year. And then by the time I turned 17, they was like, all right, you graduated to the big boys. And so they gave me 7 years in prison at 17. And that was the beginning of my journey as a man. Was trying to navigate the penitentiary, trying to figure out who I am, what I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing. But how many of you have been to prison or are previously just everybody here, damn near? So then you guys understand that, especially your first time going in, it's chaotic, it's confusing, it's scary, it's all of these different things. And it doesn't come with a manual. They give you a prison rule book, but they don't give you a prison survival book. It's different, right? That what they're telling you to do is completely different to what you have to do while you're there. And you'll get people that they do it the way that the prison manual says to do it. But that just didn't work for me. In any of the times, I've done over 15 years in prison. And in any of the times I went to prison, that manual that they passed out, that never worked for me. I couldn't follow all of the rules. I couldn't follow all of the codes of conduct. I couldn't do all of the things they were asking me to do. It just didn't work because at the end of the day, I had no idea who I was. When you don't know who you are or where you are, it's impossible to know what's next. So you're just winging it. Just kind of raise your hand.
My name's Matt. You know, so in the system, when you follow the system, then again, you follow another system.
Yeah.
As your own kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's systems within systems within systems. You got the prison telling you what to do. You got your own race, your own kind telling you what to do. You got your family telling you what to do, right? My mom would tell me all the time, boy, stay out of trouble. And I'm like, it ain't that easy. I'm 18 years old. What am I supposed to do? Just kind of accept how people are treating me, accept the conditions the way that they are. Like, you know, I'm still trying to figure things out. So I went through that entire journey. And I studied and I read and I reflected, but I was still torn between being who I really wanted to be versus who I felt like I had to be while I was in prison. You know, you end up putting on this mask or a facade so that you can get through the time. But what happens is that becomes confusing because then when you get out, now you got to be somebody completely different all over again. You got to be somebody completely different to your family, You got to be somebody completely different to your employer. If you stay at a halfway house and you got a roommate, like everywhere you go, people are pulling you in different directions, asking you to be somebody different. So when is it that you finally get an opportunity to say, man, listen, this is just who I am, and this is just who I'm going to be, regardless of who's around or where I'm at? I'm 40, and I'm just barely getting to that place in life. I'm just barely getting to a place in life to where I'm taking my own life by the horns and saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is who I want to be. This is where I'm going, et cetera, et cetera. It's a journey. It's a process. When I met Andre in 2015, I got the DUI in 2013. They admit me to prison in 2015. And we were running a Bible study, and we were reading the Bible, and we were teaching the word to people. Anybody who would listen, we were teaching the word. But again, because I was torn, right? Let me just kind of paint the picture. When I went to prison, I owned a business. I was engaged. My son had just turned 5. I was, by all intents and purposes, a well-to-do, respectable human being. I was out here doing what I was supposed to be doing. But in reality, I was also living a double life. I was drinking every day. I was smoking weed every day. I was cheating on my wife. I wasn't paying my taxes. I was shorting people on deals. I was doing all the things that you're not supposed to do, but I was putting on this image. So when I went to prison and they gave me all this time, I was bitter. I was upset. And it showed, because in one instance, I'd come out and I'd have this Bible. I'd be a Bible thumper. Jesus loves you. I'd be reciting scripture. I'd be sitting down praying with people. And then when I went back into my cell and they closed them doors, my neighbor was the hooch guy. So he was drinking about 20, 30 bottles a night. And so how do you go from being this upstanding, well-to-do Christian, this Bible thumper, to being an uncontrollable alcoholic, all within the same day? It's because you don't know who you are. You're still trying to find your way in a world that's always trying to tell you who to be. See, the thing is that we grow up and no one ever really tells us how to believe. They only tell us what to believe. Your parents tell you what to believe. Your siblings tell you what to believe. Your friends and family tell you what to believe. Then you go to school and they really tell you what to believe. And that's it. Everyone's just telling you what to believe about the world, what to believe about yourself, and what to believe about your place in this world. But no one ever really tells you how you construct these beliefs. Can anybody tell me, how do you believe? Let's go.
Whatever works for me, for the better. And I think that's what I choose to believe as something I should do.
But what's the process? How does that go? How do you believe?
Trial and error. I don't know if I'm understanding exactly what you're asking.
Yeah, it's a complicated question because it's a question no one's ever asked you before, huh?
I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever gave a proper answer to it.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that question?
How do you believe? Not what do you believe. I know what you believe. Some people believe money is evil. They believe that, that the police are out to kill you. They believe that everybody is against you. Or some people are eternal optimists and they believe that the world is a friendly place, right? Say it again.
Experience, observations. I think you just got to put both feet in. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out of anything.
All right, so let me back it up. How many people have ever heard the term, money is the root of all evil? Everybody. But that's what the Bible says. The Bible says the love of money. But just the term, love of money is the root of all, money is the root of all evil, right? That's a term that's commonly thrown out. And there are people that actually buy into that concept. They believe that money is actually the root of all evil. Whether they believe it's the love of money or just money itself, they believe that that's the root of all evil. I have a friend. She believes that every time you see one police car, you will see 3. And every time I'm with her, it never fails. We see one police car, and then we see another, and we see another. And then she's like, see, I told you. Every time you see 1, you're going to see 3. And she believes that. And so what happens is that not only does she believe it, it becomes true in her life. The thing is that what we have to understand is that our beliefs are nothing more than opinions. It's not factual. I believe in God, but I don't have any factual basis for why I believe in God. I can give you some things that have happened in my life. I can give you my opinion of why I believe that God is real, why I believe that Jesus walked and he bared the cross, right? But I can't give you any factual information to back that up because there are people who have contrasting beliefs. There are some people that don't believe in Christianity. They believe in Islam. There's some people that don't believe in Islam. They believe in Judaism. There's some people that don't believe in nothing. So I come back to the question of how do you believe? How do you come to believe the things that you believe? Because here's what I know. Whatever you believe is real. If you believe in the boogeyman, if you believe that it's scary in the dark, if you believe that I deserve everything that's coming to me, if you believe that, you know what, as soon as I walk out of here today, I'm going to find $100. You probably will. It's crazy. But it's how you believe. So that's the question is, how do you believe? How do you get these things to eventually subsist to where your life is governed by it? Because we don't walk around knowingly believing things. We don't have, like, this book that I carry everywhere I go is not full of beliefs, right? I don't have a register in my head that says, here are all my beliefs, and I'm constantly thinking about them. These are things that you don't even think about. There's a lot of stuff that you believe that has taken root in your life, and you don't even recognize it. See, no one ended up in prison or in jail or strung out on drugs by accident. It didn't happen by accident. What happened is that somewhere along the way, you bought into a belief. You adopted it as your own, and then it became a habit. It became a part of your everyday routine. But no one tells us how we adopt these habits or how we adopt these beliefs. So the last time I asked the question, and I will ask it again. How do you believe? What's the process of turning an opinion into a real belief that you adopt, and then it becomes part of your everyday life? You know, the thing is that those are all very, very good and very true answers. But the reality is that you believe based on what you see. Yeah, it's as simple as that. If you walk out here and you see somebody get mugged, it's going to shape your belief, and you're not even going to know it. If you come out and you look at the sky and it starts raining, but you see that it's dark gray clouds, the next time you go outside and you see dark gray clouds, what are you going to think? That's how easy it is to shape your beliefs. And you don't even know it. Every single day, your beliefs are being shaped by stuff that you see. They have these things called implicit biases, right? That's become a new term nowadays. You hear about different prejudices, how racism has become like a big talking point in the world in which we live in today, right? Out of COVID, all of a sudden racism was like all on the TV, right? Black Lives Matter everywhere you go. We're being shaped by the things that we see, right? But there's this thing called implicit bias that they talk about. And a lot of it just deals with the fact that when you see something, all of a sudden now you take it and you hold on to it, and it becomes a part of who you are. And then you, in turn, project that out into the world. That's how you end up where you are in life. Is the things that you receive and then you project back out. If you receive negativity and then you put it back out into the world, what do you think you're going to get? If you plant apple seeds in the ground, that's it. You ain't going to get nothing else. And so a lot of this starts and ends with our own perception and how we see things. The stuff that we're taking in, right? So while I'm sitting in prison and I'm teaching the Bible and I'm drinking up all the hooch on the yard, I'm shaping my beliefs, right, to this duality that shouldn't really exist. The Bible says is that you should either be hot or cold. You should never be lukewarm. You should never be in the middle. Because if you're in the middle, then where is the energy of the universe going to go? If you plant an apple seed, all of the energy of the universe is going to be to produce that apple into a tree, that seed into a tree, and then eventually produce fruit, right? So when you're split, you're not all the way over here or you're not all the way over here. You're kind of confused. You're in the middle. You're kind of straddling the fence, so to speak. That seed will never grow. It'll never grow because you're not properly watering it. You're not putting it in the right soil. It's like you put it in a soil but then instead of giving it water, you pour beer on it, thinking it's going to grow. Or instead of putting it in soil, you put it in sand, and you think it's going to grow. You're not all the way where you need to be. So you're kind of confused. So the very first thing that has to transpire in your life is you have to decide. You have to make a decision to be all in or all out. Every time I was ever kind of in the middle, I ended up in prison. I wanted to be all in. I wanted to be an upstanding citizen in society. I wanted to pay my bills. I wanted to have a great job. I wanted to have a house, a wife, kids, a backyard with a pool, picket fence, take 3 vacations a year, got 2 cars. I wanted that life. But I didn't want to let go of the life that I had, which is I'm out here selling dope. I'm out here robbing people. I'm out here getting high. I'm getting drunk. I'm having sex with anybody that'll wave at me. Like all of these different things. That's what I was doing. This is what I wanted. How do you bridge that gap? Now you have to. Because if you don't, you end up in prison. You end up continuing the cycle of what you don't really want. They say that to be double-minded is kind of like being a paper bag, right? If you go outside in the middle of monsoon season and you put a paper bag in the parking lot, where's that thing going to go? Wherever the wind takes you. So if you're not decisive, you're going to end up wherever the wind takes you. To put it into perspective, my mentor used to say this all the time. He would say to me, it's not the blowing of the wind that determines where you end up, but how you set your sail. Because see, the reality is that everybody has 24 hours in a day. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, LeBron James, DeLonne Andre L.I.F.T. Copeland. Everybody has 24 hours in a day. I don't care how much money you got, you can't buy an extra hour. You can't even buy an extra second. I don't care how much money you got, how powerful you are, time will continue to tick on everybody. So if time is the constant, then how is it that your life is different than his? How is it that my life is different than his? Or Andre's life is different than any of ours? It has nothing to do with the time. It has to do with how you properly set your sail. If you get in a boat and you go out into the middle of the Pacific Ocean and that boat ain't got no motor, all it got is a sail. If you don't know how to set the sail, where you going? Wherever the wind takes you. And that's how we're living our lives. We're living our lives like wherever the wind takes me, that's where I end up. I don't really have no real plan for my life. And a guy told me a long time ago, if you don't have a plan for your life, don't worry. Because somebody else will have a plan for your life. The Department of Corrections has had a plan for my life since before I was born. You know how I know? Because they've been building prisons since the day I was born. They still building prisons right now. They got a plan for your life if you don't got a plan for yours. There are employers right now that are looking for people to hire because they don't have a plan for their own life. So like, don't worry about it. Come and join my team. Come work here. Come be a part of this family. Come be a part of this organization. And they'll have a plan for your life if you don't have a plan for your own. And so it wasn't until I became decisive about that, about actually having a plan for my life, that things begin to change. Now, just because I had a plan doesn't mean that things began to change. But that was the catalyst. That was the start. It can't start until you at least have what's called a vision. Who can tell me what vision means or describe what the term vision is?
You ever see what's in front of you?
Pretty much, yeah. Vision is just you'll be able to see, your ability to see. But to take it a step forward, that's you have sight and then you have vision. See, my sight is no good. If I take this off, I can't see none of y'all, I promise. I just see a bunch of blurs. I couldn't identify anybody. Even if Andre walked in here, I wouldn't know who he was because my sight is not that good. But my vision is impeccable because I've always had the ability to see things that are not quite there. And that's the only reason why I'm still alive. That's the only reason why I haven't ended up with a life sentence or I haven't gone back to prison after 2 years is because I have this innate ability to see things that aren't quite there yet. There's a story of Walt Disney. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was one of the very first people that Walt Disney ever offered an opportunity to invest in Disneyland. So he says, I get a call from Walt one day and he says, hey man, I want you to meet me out in Orange County. I want to show you something. So they come out and at the time it was a bunch of apple orchards. And he's just walking around. He's like, over here, I'm going to have some teacups, and they're going to be spinning around, and people can ride around in these teacups. And over here, it's going to be a mouse with these big old ears, and he's going to be waving. He's going to be shaking people's hands. And then over here, over here, it's going to be a flying elephant. And he's going to have these big old ears, and he's going to be flying. And this guy is just sitting here like, this fool is tripping. He's talking about teacups and talking mouse and flying elephants. I'm good, man. Because he didn't have the vision. All he had was the sight. All he could see was apple orchards and some strange-ass man running around here talking about talking animals. But Walt Disney had vision. And you know, as a result of this man having vision, if you ever meet somebody with the last name Disney, they're doing pretty well. The problem is that we, common folks, will never meet anybody last name Disney. Just like we won't meet many people named Walton, after Sam Walton, the guy who invented Walmart, right? These very successful people who had vision, they were able to set themselves and their family up for a long time. They were able to put themselves in a position to win. And so vision is saying that I'm here today, but I'd like to be here tomorrow. How do you know where you would like your life to go? How many of y'all have a 100-year plan? A plan that says, if I live to be 100, this is how my life looks in every segment of my life. I mean,
50, not 100.
yeah, but if you live to be 100,
Well, I'll figure that out when I get 50.
hey, you know, I feel that. So this is how things kind of started to change for me. I used to do collections. And I was talking to this guy. He was 76 years old. I never forget this. He was 76 years old. And he owed me, he didn't owe me. He owed $10,000 on a Sears Gold MasterCard. So he says, listen, man, I don't know how old you are. I don't know what you do. But I have to tell you this. Once upon a time, I was you. I was doing well. I had the houses. I had the cars. I had the boats. I had the vacations. And then all of a sudden, I got sick. And it all went away. And now, he says, I do all my grocery shopping at the dollar store. My medication, I got to chop it in half because I can't afford my medication month to month because I never planned for this day. I thought the money would last forever, and I never planned for this day. So 50 years is cool, but at 51, your plan runs out. And so then, now you're back at square one. When if you don't wait until you get 48, 49, 50, 51 to come up with the next part of your plan, you'll be ahead of the game.
The way I set myself up to be at 50, it'll be residual later.
Yeah. So what do you want to be doing in your 60s?
Well, I have options. That's what I mean by the way I set it up. It's going to go one of 2 or 3 ways.
Yeah.
But either like residual retirement type shit, or, I mean, I'm not going to get into details.
Sure. I feel you. But you got to...
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. It's not, I'm not disagreeing with it.
Yeah. You got a general idea of where you would like things to turn out, how you like things to turn out.
I know what I need to do now to get in that direction.
Yeah. And that's...
once I get there, I can have my options open. So
That's a start. Because the thing is that you see tomorrow.
yeah.
So you know what to do today. How you see yourself in the future determines how you act in the present. See, when I was out here running these streets, these same streets that y'all rode on to get here today, I've done everything that you could do on these streets. Right? And the reason, the thing is that I had no real vision for who I was. So what I did in those moments never mattered. See, I didn't realize how hard it would be to get a place, how hard it would be to get credit, how hard it would be to get my son into a good school, to buy a car, all these things when I was 16, 17, running these streets, robbing and stealing and doing all these different things. It didn't matter to me. Now it's a little different because I have a vision for my life at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. If I want to be able to do the things I want to do at 90, I need to make sure that I'm making better decisions today. Because if I'm making bad decisions today, I'm not going to see 41, let alone 90. So that's part of the problem that we have, is that we don't clearly see ourselves in the future. So we have no idea what we should be doing today. When I know my son gets out of school at 4 and he goes to practice, and it's from 4 to 6, and he get home by 6:30, I know I need to have dinner ready. I know this right now, right? It's almost 1 o'clock. I know this right now. So when I leave here, I go home, I start meal prepping for dinner. But if I had no idea what was happening later, what I do right now don't matter. So then when I get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and my son looking at me like, Dad, I'm hungry. Oh, shit. Damn, all right, that's right. We got to get dinner ready. Now I got to go get some fast food or whatever, because I had no idea about what was going to be happening past the present moment. So here's kind of how life works, is that you have the past, the present, and the future. 90+% of people, they live in the outer realms of the present, meaning that they're caught up in the past or they're pre-consumed by the future. And when you're caught up in the past, it just creates depression, it creates anxiety, and when you're so focused on the future, it creates anxiety, right? Because you're like, oh my God, how am I gonna? I just moved, right? And so I'll tell you a quick story. When I got out of prison, I moved into this place. She was a friend of my mother's. She offered me a great place, $950 a month for a 2-bedroom, in a decent neighborhood, right? Cool, I took it. But what happened was she started to get kind of intrusive. She would tell me, hey, you got to have your thermostat at 78 in the summertime. She would say, hey, man, your son's been taking too long of a shower. He needs to cut it down to like 10, 15 minutes. I'd be outside making a call. She'd be like, hey, you need to be quiet. So after a year and a half, it's like, you know what, I don't need this no more. So a few months ago, I told her, hey, listen, I'm going to give you my 90 days today, and we'll be out of here by September 5th.
That's more than I would
Yeah. So the thing is that I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to find a place in such a short amount of time. You think 90 days is more than enough time. But I'm a felon. My credit ain't the greatest. You know what I'm saying? I have all of these obstacles and all of these hurdles. So it was a rush to get a place found in the 11th hour. But we just moved last weekend. Right? I finally got this whole thing squared away. But what ends up happening is that I allowed the circumstances to move me in a direction that allowed me to see forward. I wasn't stressed out about needing to find a place because I already knew. I saw it. I said, we'll find a place in 90 days. That's why I told her that. And people would tell me, man, you're not stressing out. You're not worried. You're trying to find a place. Like you're not worried. Like it's August and I ain't packed the box. It's August 14th. And let me see this. Hold on a second. I wish I could get it on the computer, but my sister asked me like a couple weeks ago, not even a couple weeks ago. She asked me, this was on Friday. My sister asked me, she's like, how's the moving going? And I says, well, I got the keys to my place, but we ain't packed. There's like 8 boxes there. That's it. That's all that we packed. And this is a week before I had to move. But I'm not stressed out. I'm not worried because I'm not too involved in the future. So I say all that to say that there's a fine line that you have to have with the past, the present, and the future, right? The past is you have to have short-term and long-term memory. You got to have short-term memory for the things that have happened to you, the things that people have done to you. You can't take that shit with you into the future or into today. The things that people did to me, it does not affect me today. If I bring it with me into today, that's my own fault for how I allow it to affect me emotionally. I get all depressed when I think about what happened to me when I was a kid. I get all depressed when I think about all the time I spent in prison away from my son. It has no place. You got to have short-term memory with respect to the things that have happened to you, but you got to have long-term memory with respects to the things that you have done. And what I mean is, I'll give you an example. My son plays basketball. The other day, we took him to a workout. After the workout, he's like, man, I ain't do so well. I struggled. I couldn't make a shot. And I had to explain to him, it's all in your mind. Because if you've ever made one shot, you can make another and another and another. So if you've done something in the past, then you need to carry that with you into the future to give you the confidence to know, I've done it once, I can do it again. Whether it's about your sobriety, whether it's about having a good employment history, whether it's about starting a business, whether it's about having good relationships with your friends and family or people in your community, whatever that may be for you, if you've already done it, that's what you need to take with you from the past. Because in this day that we live in, You got to find ways to take the victories where you can get them. Because life will beat you down. Life will tell you that you're less than. Life will tell you that you're not good enough. Life will tell you that you don't belong here. You shouldn't be here. But we all do. And if you look back at your past and the things that you've done, we've all done some great and some exceptional things. But we don't take it with us. We just take the bad shit that happened to us. The same goes for the future. You have to be able to see yourself in the future, but you can't live there. Spend some time, make a plan, come up with some goals, find a way to put it into action, and then come back in today, right? Because the more time you spend in the future and tomorrow and the next day and the next day, it's just going to make you anxious. It's just going to make you stressed out. It's just going to make you fearful and worried. And now you're going to be like, oh, man, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't do that, right? But most of the time, you should be here in the present moment. Just enjoy the present moment, because the reality is that right now, we all have everything we need to get us from this moment to the next. And in this moment, we have everything we need right now to get us to the next moment. So if you can just kind of figure that portion of your life out, the rest of this gets easier. So I'm going to just share with you guys a couple of little things that have helped me to be successful, to stay out of trouble, to stay sober, to be the best dad that I can be, a good son, a good brother, good uncle, good employer, good employee, right? And maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. But what I will say is that you all got to commend yourself for taking the first step, which is being here. Because you didn't have to be here. There's a lot of organizations and a lot of programs that exist. There's a lot of people that have had an opportunity to come to these programs and they said no. I took this program when I was actually in the second chance. I did the community kitchen when I was in the second chance. And I had a chance to continue it when I got out, but my life went a different direction. But I'm glad that a program like this exists, and it's here because it's a great first step. It's a great stepping stone to help you to kind of get some skills, to develop some relationships, to get some wins, to get some confidence under your belt, right? But the first thing is that it doesn't really matter what happens while you're in this program. There's a lot of people who have done this. They've graduated. They got the certificate. They got the hat, the shirt. They got the job set up, but they just didn't work. So the first thing is that you got to work. You got to work. None of this stuff works if you don't work. And you can't just like work a little bit. You got to work a lot of it. You got to find a way to push yourself to work harder than you've ever worked at any point in time in your life. Because we're all behind the 8 ball. Ain't nobody in here 18. Ain't nobody in here got a squeaky clean background. And ain't nobody in here come without issues from their past. Whether it be addiction, whatever it is, right? We all have our own issues. So when you couple that with the fact that we're all starting at ground zero, we're all starting over, if you don't have the ability to work, it's just not going to work. You're going to end up back at square one every time. And that's the hardest part about getting in trouble and going to prison, is the starting over. That's the part I hate. You accumulate all of this stuff. You get jobs, relationships, furniture, cars, bank accounts, all these things, and then you get in trouble, you relapse, you go to jail, you go to prison, and all of that shit's gone, and then you got to start back over from scratch. That's the worst part about it, right? So if you can at least say that I will always make the attempt to be the hardest working person I'm around, it's impossible for you to fail. That's like the number one key to success, is hard work. People will tell you, oh, don't. You got to work smarter, not harder. But the thing is that it's still work. You can't escape that word, work. The only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. That's it. Success will never come without work, without toil, without sweat, without being able to put yourself in a position to get dirty, without being able to put yourself in a position to push yourself further and harder than you thought that you could push yourself. Because we can all do more than we thought we could. We can all do more than we've been told that we could. But the thing is that the type of work I'm actually talking about isn't the type of work that you may think it is, right? Yeah, you got to go to your job and you got to work hard. Yeah, you got to go into the kitchen or to the warehouse or to whatever it is you do, and you have to work hard. But My mentor told me, he said that you must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I ain't understanding that first. What do you mean work on yourself? Personal development, spiritual development. You have to be an aggressive student of knowledge. Because the more you learn, the more you study, the more you grow, the more confident you become. I have this conversation with my son, right, and his friends, because these are 13-year-old kids. And this is how they live their life. On the phone, addicted to the phone. So we got a rule in my car, ain't no phones. No phones, no AirPods, no headphones, because my son at 13 doesn't know how to navigate the streets. At 13, I could get anywhere from Avondale to East Mesa and everywhere in between. I could walk, I could ride a bike, I could hitchhike, I could get on a bus. It didn't matter. I knew my way around. I knew the streets like the back of my hand. Because we didn't have Google Maps. We didn't have Waze, or we didn't have Apple Maps, or we didn't even have, this is before MapQuest. I remember when MapQuest came about and you printed out, and now you like this, page 1. Don't get your pages mixed up, because then you're going to get lost, right? We didn't have that. So you had to be expert at navigating. These kids, they don't know that. So here's how I try to explain it to them so they understand the importance of why you need to be able to know how to navigate. Because if I tell them, if I take you and I drop you off, say at Cast, right? You guys know what Cast is?
Oh, yeah.
We're right down the street, right? I take you and I drop you off there. I just drop you off right here on 27th Avenue. And your phone is dead, you ain't got a phone. What are you going to do?
Panic.
No, not what you're going to do. We're talking about these 13-year-old kids. They're going to panic.
Panic.
Because they have no idea where they are. They have no idea where they're going. They don't know any of the people that they're around. They don't know what to do. So you have no confidence, and now all of a sudden the fear, the worry, the anxiety, all these things start to kick in. But now imagine when you get dropped off, what do you look like when you're afraid? You look like dinner time. You look like a victim. You look like a mark. You know why people target tourists? Because you can always spot a tourist. They doing this. They're confused. They don't know what's going on. That's why they're an easy target, because they're not confident in where they are or what they're doing, because they don't have the knowledge. But now, if you have the knowledge and you know where you are, you know how to navigate, you know how to get around, and you get dropped off and you ain't got a phone, you look like a man on a mission. It's the same for all of us in life. If you take the time to educate yourself and to develop new skills and to learn new things, all of a sudden you're more confident. How many people in here are in the L.I.F.T program? Did you know how to drive a forklift before you started?
Yes.
When you the very first time you got on the forklift, what was that like?
It was unexpected in a way, because they're like, okay, where do I start?
Yeah.
Because my employer said, DeLonne, I want you to,
Move this.
lift your steel.
Yeah. Ooh, steel pipe?
With, or steel companies.
Is it bound steel or is it loose?
High beams.
Okay.
Move it
Big
to,
pipes.
Yeah.
there's different sections.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just started, okay, there's this one over there. It's my first time.
That's hard.
Yeah, hell yeah, it's
That's
hard.
really hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
And he told me, simple.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do this, so do that. Still, I was confused.
Sure.
Yeah.
But now,
It was still, like you said, confusing. I didn't know where I was at
mm-hmm.
and where to go.
Yeah, probably moving slow.
Yeah.
Now you get on the forklift, you got your foot on the gas, lift it up, whipping that thing around. Like the first time I drove a forklift, it was the same thing. I had no idea what I was doing.
Not really there yet.
But you'll get there. Yeah, you get there. But more and more, the more you do it, the more you learn, the more you've been educated, the more confident you are. Those same feelings you had the first time, you don't have those anymore. And it just comes with the confidence of learning, the confidence of growing, the confidence of taking this information and then applying it, right? The moment you learn something and you do it the first time, even if you're really bad at it, it's like, man, I did that. And then you do it again, and you're just a little bit better. And you're like, damn, I did that. The more you do it, the more confidence you build up. And so it's like that with anything that you do in life. And so when my mentor would say to me, you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, that's what he was talking about. Because if I'm working on myself, I'm getting these wins internally, then what ends up happening is that now it's almost, regardless of the situation that I walk into, I have a certain level of confidence in myself that I can do it. Because what I do is I go back to my history and I look at all the things that I've done over the last 40 years. And I've done a lot of different things. And I've done some things really bad, but I've done some things pretty well. But one thing I know about me is if I put my mind to it, I'm going to succeed. I'll do it. I will accomplish the objective. But it's that process of educating myself, of learning, of reading, of reflecting, of studying, of practicing, of doing these things so that I can develop the confidence that I can come out here and I can succeed in regardless of what I'm doing. So when he says work harder on yourself than you're doing your job, the reason why, as he says, is that formal education will make you a living. This right here, what you guys are doing, this class, going through this program, this is what you consider formal education. This is like going to college. Everybody that goes to college or goes to school, they're getting a formal education. And a formal education will make you a living. You'll get this certification. They're going to assign you a job. You're going to get hooked up with an employer, and they're going to pay you, and you will earn a living. And there is nothing wrong with earning a living. But what he said is that self-education, as opposed to formal education, self-education will make you a fortune. That's how you'll be able to have the residual that will take care of you in your later years, because you took it one step further. You didn't just say, I'm going to accept the fact that I graduated this program and they gave me a job and that's it. I'm cool. I'm complacent. The job is done. We're good. We're going to put our feet up and we're going to call it a day. But if you continue to be a student and you continue to learn and invest in yourself, now you can take this position and you can go from being an employee to a supervisor, to a manager, to a general manager, to a regional manager, to a president, to eventually an owner. It happens. Or you can go from an employee straight to an owner if you have your own ideas. But at the end of the day, if you never take the time to invest in yourself, outside of your job, outside of the formal education, then you're always going to pretty much be where you are. And that's the reality. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's people that work in different places all over the world, and it's necessary to have them in those places. It's necessary. We need people in every part of our economy in order for this thing to move, in order for this thing to go. But that doesn't have to be your reality. You never have to be in a position to where this is all there is. If you ever feel like that, that's because you're not growing. That's because you haven't taken the time to invest in yourself, to learn more, so that you can be more, that you can do more, and then you can have more. There is no cap on potential. And here's how I know. Because I've seen people who are autistic. I've seen people who are severely handicapped. People who have mental and physical ailments and illnesses that have achieved levels of success that are unmatched in this day and age. I was listening to a podcast about a guy who's a quadriplegic. He ain't got no arms and no legs. But he drives, combs his hair, brushes his teeth, owns a business, travels all over the world public speaking. Like, he ain't got no arms or legs. What's my excuse? Why is it that I can't be successful? There are people out here that are autistic. There are people who have, I met a guy, 35 years he did in prison. And within 5 years, he owned a successful trucking company. 45 trucks. So what's my excuse? It's only, I just haven't put in enough work. If you're not where you want to be, it isn't because the economy, it isn't because of Trump or Biden or whoever else is, any of these other political figures. It isn't because of your race. It isn't because of your color. It isn't because of where you came from. It's only because you just haven't worked. You ain't put in the work. Because there's a bunch of black folks, there's a bunch of women, there's a bunch of Native Americans, there's a bunch of handicapped people of all shapes and sizes, colors, and backgrounds are doing and living the life that they imagine. So why can't we? Why can't we live the life that we want to live? Why can't we live what we want to live or do what we want to do or have what we want to have? It isn't just about material things also. I want you guys to understand something. It's not just about material or money. That's not what life is all about. You'll make a lot of money and you'll realize is that, damn, I'm still not happy. Right? That's why it's the self-growth. That's why it's the self-education. You can go and you can learn a skill and you can be the best water bottle maker in the history of the universe. And you can make a ton of money and you'll never be happy. That's why you got people that are worth billions of dollars blowing their brains out and jumping off of buildings and trying to kill themselves and just squandering everything that they had because they never took the time to work as hard on themselves as they did on their job. So I'll say this one last time and then we'll move on. You got to learn how to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And it's tough. I sell fire equipment. So those sprinkler systems that you see all throughout the building, and you'll come outside and you'll see these big red pipes or big black pipe with these red fittings on it. That's what I sell. I sell suppression systems, right? I do okay. I also have a car dealership. I also am in a land investment group. I don't own, but I have an office that I lease. I do a lot of shit. So by the time I get home at the end of the day, I'm tired. And 5 days a week. Actually, 6 days a week. Monday through Saturday, I'm up. I get up every day at 4:30, 5 o'clock, but I've got my son up at 6:30 so we can get to the gym at 7. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we work out. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we go in there, we get shots up. And then I do that. I do all of these other things, and then I come home. I'm tired, man. I don't want to read no book. I don't want to meditate. I don't want to reflect on my day. I don't want to do anything. Ideally, I'd like to have a beer, a blunt, and some place I can put my feet up and not be bothered with none of this stuff. But that's how you become complacent. That's how you stay where you're at. When you don't grow, you're dead. To put it another way, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. So the moment that you get to the point to where you stop growing, so does your life. And we take it for granted, right? Because when we're kids, we grow naturally. Up until you're 16, 17, 18, 19 or whatever, you're naturally going to grow. You don't even have to think about it. One day you're 5'3", the next way you wake up, you're 5'6". One day you're 110 pounds, the next day you're 130 pounds. One day you ain't got no facial hair, the next day you got a whole full beard. It just happens naturally. But when we become adults, that growth, it stops. The only way you grow as an adult is you just grow out, right? You have to be intentional about your growth when you become an adult. Otherwise, you end up like that paper bag in the parking lot. Again, to me, that's the worst part about all of this, is that when you end up like that paper bag, when you finally stop blowing, you got to start all over again. Still lost, right? So you got to work. And none of this stuff works without work. So if you take nothing else, you just got to know, I just got to be prepared to go to work. But go to work on yourself. Don't just go work for an employer and give them the best hours of your life and of your day so that he can go play golf while you working, and he can put his kids through college, and he can go on vacation 5-6 times a year while you toil and sweat at that job every single day. If all you do is work on your job, I won't call you a failure, but I'll say that you'll never reach your full potential. Because I promise you this, I don't know the design for everybody's life, but we were not all designed to go to work for somebody else. That's just a fact. Once upon a time, there was no such thing as being an employee. You owned your job. You sold cattle. You were the blacksmith, the shoemaker. You know, you were the handyman. Like you didn't go to work for a major corporation. Again, we talked about if you don't have a plan for your life, somebody else will have a plan for you. These big corporations that just keep popping up, these multi-billion-dollar corporations with tens of thousands of employees, they got a plan for your life. They have a plan for the lives of all the people who don't got a plan for their life. Companies like Microsoft and Intel and Google and things like that, they got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees. A lot of them have no idea where they're going. The second thing is that you got to be consistent. That's always been my problem, is that I'm what you call ambitiously lazy. You know what I mean? I can grind it out for a few weeks or a couple months, but then after that, I'm like, all right, that's just stop. I need to take a break. So I'll work for a few months and then I'll take a few months off. And that's a recipe for disaster, really, because what happens is that all the ground you pick up, you lose it. And it's like starting all over again. Somebody told me, and I've never tried this, so I don't know how true it is. I don't recommend that you try it. But somebody told me that if you put a 2x4 in front of a train while it's stationary, it won't be able to go. Yeah. Can't pick up no momentum. A 2x4. Yeah, a 2x4. But you get a train going, and it'll run through a house. It'll run through your car. It's nothing can stop a moving train at full speed. And so consistency is doing the same thing over and over and over and over, regardless of the results, right? Because that's the problem that sometimes we have is we do something and we don't get the results we want, so we stop. But I look at it like this. You work hard and you fail, you just keep working hard. You work hard and you succeed, you just keep working hard. If you just stay consistent, doing the same thing over and over and over again, those two things combined, hard work and consistency, that is, without a shadow of a doubt, the key to success. In anything, I don't care what you want to do. You want to get in great shape, you want to be sober, you want to start a business, you want to have better relationships, you got to work, and you got to be consistent. It's crazy because you get people, we're about to come into the new year, and everybody's going to have the same fitness goals, right? I want to lose 40 pounds. I want to get my body into summer body. I want to get that summer body. I want to get that six-pack right. And on January 1st, you go to the gym, you got to park like 4 blocks away. But on February 1st, shoot, we pulling right up front. Because people weren't consistent. They weren't consistent. And here's what happens. This is why it's hard to be consistent. Because my grandmother used to say this to me. She said, your eyes are bigger than the plate. Or your eyes are bigger than your stomach. There you go. Your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Right? You try to take on more than you can handle. I'm going to lose 40 pounds and I'm going to try to go to the gym and lose it in one day. And then I get on the scale and I gain 2 pounds. What the hell? I gained 2 pounds. I quit. It's over with. When instead you say, how about we do the compound effect? Anybody ever heard of the compound effect? The compound effect is essentially little, like small but consistent acts over time produce mammoth results. And here's how I'll illustrate that point. I'm not going to go through the whole example because it'll take up the whole. You got a marker, buddy?
Yeah. I'm always prepared for you. Over there.
Over here. Okay. All right. Hopefully y'all can see me over here. So I'm going to give you the option to take, and you may have heard this analogy before. You can take 1 penny compounded times 30 days. Or I'll give you, that's a lot of zeros, $3 million upfront cash. Well, I mean, because of the example, right, most people are just going to say, yeah, y'all probably going to take that penny. But you know how long it takes for this penny to beat this $3 million? Because the first day you get 1 penny. And then the second day it doubles to 2 cents. And then the third day it doubles to 4 cents. And then 8 cents. And then 16 and then 32 cents. So we're almost at a week, and you ain't even at $1. So if you go to the gym every day for a week or a month, and you never lost a pound, and you never got a muscle, and your six-pack never became developed, how many of you are going to continue to go to the gym?
Sounds like they should change their diet.
I mean, listen, it's a cumulative effect, right? When we talk about that, but the reality is that that's how we live our life. I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one that's not been consistent with something because I didn't get the results I thought. But I've learned that I can't allow the results to determine the work and the effort that I put into what I'm doing. Because if I'm only in it for the results and I'm looking at this versus this, I'm going to get fooled every time. But eventually, in this example, I think it comes out to like 5 million, something like that. If you compound the penny over time every day for 30 days, eventually it starts to get big because then it goes from 32 to 64 and then 64 to $1.28 and then $1.28 to $2.56. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is on the 9th day. You barely at $2.56. How long are you going to stay consistent when you're seeing these kind of results? It's tough. Not very, for most people, not very long.
I would invest it.
Huh?
I would take that and invest it with more.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you started off with a penny.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's
$2 is a lot more than a penny.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But sometimes it's hard to see that because we're looking for the big win. We ain't looking for the little wins. I'm not looking for the fact that I woke up this morning. Shit. If you woke up this morning, there is no bigger victory. That's the biggest victory that you're going to have for the day, I promise you. And if you make it to the end of the night and you can put your head on the pillow and reflect on the day, that's going to be the second biggest win. But you know what I've learned to do? I heard a guy told me this and I was like, man, that's dumb. And I thought about it, I was like, shit, you know what actually makes sense? He was like, the first thing you do in the morning is what? Make your bed. Make your bed every morning. That's the first accomplishment. So now you can say, man, I accomplished something. It's a small victory.
Should I do it every morning?
It's a small victory. But you don't understand the ramifications of what that does for you mentally. It creates this proverbial snowball of confidence. Because now, all of a sudden, you're knocking down all these individual little tasks. You're taking these little wins, and it's helping you to become more confident. So that down the road, when you come against that bigger obstacle, that bigger task, you've got enough confidence to say, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to take this thing head on. Whether or not I lose the 40 pounds, I'm going to continue to stay consistent with my diet and with my exercise. Whether or not I make $3 million in my lifetime, I'm going to continue the process of investing in myself and investing in my future. But it's consistency. You have to stay consistent, regardless of the results. Good results, keep working. Bad results, keep working. Great results, you just got to keep working. Because the moment that you take your foot off of the gas, you start to lose momentum. And when you lose momentum, that's why I use a lot of sports analogies, right? And the reason why is because, man, I love sports. But when you watch guys in football or in basketball and they come off of the court for a little bit, right? A lot of times you see them dudes on a bike. It's like, why? What are you doing on a bike? Why is he on a bike? He's trying to keep that momentum. Because I played sports and I know what it's like, especially when you get older. When you get older and you go out here and you running and hustling and bustling and then you stop and take a minute, take a break, and sit down.
The knees gonna get
Woo! Your adrenaline, it starts to wane. Your momentum starts to wane. And so now you get up off of the bench and you get back into the game and you try to summon up that energy. It's a lot harder than you thought it would be, especially the older that you get. So when you have the momentum, you got to keep it going. Consistency. Every single day, do the same things over and over again. If you can learn to develop habits that serve you, it makes consistency easier. It makes it easier to be consistent. The problem is that most of our habits, they don't serve us. When you say the word habit, instantly people go to the negative. They go to the bad habits that they got. I smoke too much, or I do this, I do that. Because that's generally what our habits have become. We've just allowed these bad habits to take root, take form in our life, and then it takes over our daily routine. So you have to be intentional, which is the third thing. You have to be intentional. And what intentional means is, that's a loaded one.
You have a purpose.
Yes. Yes. You have a purpose. You're doing it knowingly. There's a lot of times I can get in my car and I'll blank out. I'll be on my phone, driving. I was on the way here, working on my phone. And I drove right by the place. I'd have to go all the way to 31st. Last night, I just moved. And I only moved like less than a mile from where I used to live. And last night, I'm headed home, and I was driving back to my old place. Why? I was not intentional. I was not intentional about what it was I was trying to do. And again, I said earlier about growth being something that doesn't happen naturally. You have to be intentional about your growth. You have to say intentionally, I'm going to invest this amount of time or these resources in my future or into my life. Intentionality is important because oftentimes, man, we on autopilot. We just kind of going through life and a blur. And you get to the end of the day and somebody asks you, man, how was your day? What'd you do today? And you can't even remember 60% of the things that you did because you were just on autopilot. You were just kind of going through the motion. You never really took the time to be intentional with your relationships. Someone asks you, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. That was not an intentional response. That was a predetermined response that you've given to people. Instead of saying that when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm going to actually be intentional. I'm going to think about that. Man, you know what? I'm having an all right day, man. I just ran into some traffic. I got lost on my way over here. But you know what? Things are picking up. I'm being intentional about how I'm going to interact or how I'm going to address you, as opposed to just kind of going through life on autopilot. See, when you go through life on autopilot, you end up like that bag. You end up like that paper bag in the parking lot. If you don't have intentions for your life, same thing with having a plan, man. Somebody's going to have a plan for your life. Somebody is going to be able to align your interests with theirs. And that's how you end up manipulated. That's how you end up getting taken advantage of. That's a bad feeling, to be taken advantage of, to be manipulated, to be used, because we're not intentional. We're just going through the motions. So you have to get from out of the past and leave the future where it's at. And if you can just be present in the moment and say, each moment I'm going to be present for what I'm doing. And I'm going to be intentional about what I'm doing. I'm going to have purpose behind what I'm doing. Then it makes it just a little bit easier to be consistent and to work hard. Right? So there's this, I'm gonna tell that story now. Andre, how much time do I got? 5 minutes? Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm from here. I'm from Phoenix. I grew up in Maryville.
Yeah?
Yeah, I grew up in Maryville. Yeah. DeLonne.
DeLonne?
Yeah. I only got 5 minutes, so I'm gonna actually just close with this. I'm gonna tell the story and then we'll be out of here. Because what happens is that all of these things, again, I keep saying, will help you with your self-confidence. And self-confidence is another word for self-worth. So this father, he was about to have a child, and he's thinking to himself, man, what can I do that will help my child to understand what it's going to take to be successful in life, right? So the baby is born, and he thinks about it. He's like, I got it. I know what I'm going to do. So fast forward now 18 years, and his daughter graduates college. Or graduates high school, excuse me. And so he's like, baby, congratulations. I'm glad that you graduated high school. That's a huge accomplishment. Here's your graduation gift. And he gives her this box. And she looks at this box, not this box, but she looks at this box, and it's an old box, and it's dirty, and it's dusty. So she blows on it. She opens it, and she looks, and she's like, oh, there's a ring. But this ring is not just a typical ring. It's dirty, it's filthy, it's disgusting, it's tarnished. And this is what she's telling her dad. She's like, Dad, this is ugly, it's filthy, it's disgusting, it's tarnished. There's so much dirt and grime. You can't even see what type of metal, let alone what type of stone is in here. Like, what is this? Why would you give me this as a graduation gift? And he's like, baby girl, listen, do you trust me? She's like, of course I do, Dad. He's like, well, listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take that ring and I want you to put it on. And I want you to invite your friends out to lunch tomorrow. And just see what happens. Just come back and tell me what happens. So that's what she does. She goes to lunch with her friend. She puts on the ring. And she comes back the next day to tell her dad what happened. Now, he already knows what time it is because when she comes in, she don't got the ring on. It's back in the box. And so he's like, baby girl, what happened? She's like, oh, my God, Dad, I went to my friends, and I didn't even say anything. I just put my hands on the table. They was like, ugh, what is that? That is the most ugly, filthy, dirty, disgusting, grimy, nasty. I mean, you can't even tell what type of metal it is. The stone is all caked up with gook and grime. It's like, why would your dad give you that? Like, that's ridiculous. What kind of gift is that? What you need to do is put it back in the box, take it back to your dad and tell him, give you a gift you can really use like a car. So that's what she did. He's unfazed by it. He's like, hey, all right, baby girl, do you trust me? She's like, yeah, I trust you. So this is what I want you to do then. I want you to take that same ring and I want you to go to a pawn shop. And I want you to see what they say. So that's what she does. The next day she goes to the pawn shop. She takes the ring. She puts it on the counter. The guy's like, damn. That is the ugliest, dirtiest. You guys get the point, right? Yeah. Same thing, right? So he looks at it. He says, yeah, it's all those things. But I'll give you $500 for it. So she's like, give me that ring. What? So she goes home right away, tells her dad exactly what happened. And she's like, what I can't understand, though, Dad, is he talked so bad about this ring, but he offered me $500 for it. And Dad's like, isn't that interesting? So this is what I want you to do. Tomorrow, I want you to go take this ring to a jeweler and see what the jeweler says. So she goes to the jeweler, same thing. Jeweler looks at it, damn, all that, but says, what I'll do is I'll give you $5,000 for it. Because with a little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease, this might be something. So I'll give you $5,000. So she takes the ring. She goes home. She tells her dad, I don't understand, Dad. They talk so bad about the ring, but now this guy offered me $5,000. Like, what is it? I'm like, baby girl, don't trip. You trust me? He's like, yeah. He says, all right, that's what I want you to do. There's a place called Sotheby's. I want you to take that ring to Sotheby's. It's an auction house. And I want you to take it there and see what happens. So the next day she gets up and she goes to Sotheby's. And as soon as she walks in there, it's a completely different experience. So she comes home the next day and she sees her dad. And he already knows what time it is because now she got the ring on again. But that ring doesn't look the same way that it did when he gave it to her. So he says, baby girl, what happened? She says, oh, my God, Dad, you won't believe what happened. I went into that place, Sotheby's, and I said, hey, I got this ring. And they looked at it, and they were like, oh, my God. And they whisked me away into this room. And they took such good care of me. I mean, they were tripping over themselves, trying to make sure that I was good. They were giving me water. They wanted to know if I wanted food, something to drink. They wanted to know who I was and where I was from. And they were just so interested. And they just kept bringing in all these different people. And everybody was so nice, and they were all so friendly. But most importantly, they were so helpful. What ended up happening was they brought in the head gemologist, and he came in, and he took the ring, and he said, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to tell you about this ring first. He says, this ring used to belong to a British monarch. It actually got lost at sea, and it was excavated like 400 years later.
Wow.
And then the excavator had it, but he didn't know what to do with it, and he passed away, and it went through like 3 or 4 generations of his family with no one knowing what to do with this dirty ring. Until a guy bought it at a yard sale, your dad. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this ring. I'd like to get it right. We're going to buff it up, shine it up, clean it. We're going to get it presentable so that you can know what it used to look like. And it went off about 30, 40 minutes, and they came back, and they showed her the ring. And it was a beautiful piece of jewelry. And so what she said to her dad was, I don't understand. Like my friends, they talk so bad about me. And then the guy at the pawn shop, the guy at the jewelry store, they were trying to take advantage of me. Like, what is it? And he says, see, the thing is, baby girl, you are just like that ring. You can't get mad when you go around people who don't see your value. They ain't got the vision. So what you have to do is you have to be around the people who see the value in you, but they're also willing to invest to pull out of you that intrinsic value that you might not have even knew was there. And that's the beautiful part about being in a program like this and being surrounded by gentlemen like Andre, because you are in a place where people not only see your value, but they're willing to work to help you see it and pull it out of you as well. So when you're in a place where people don't see your value or they don't respect you the way that you should be respected, you can't get mad at them. You just have to go around people who see your value. And if you're not in a position to where you can do that, then you got to learn how to be your own cheerleader. That's all I got for you guys. Really quick, I usually do this. I got cards. Again, I don't represent an organization or company, but at the end of the day, y'all are my brothers and y'all are my sisters. And so anything that I can do to help and support you guys in all of your endeavors, I don't care if you just need somebody to talk to, if you need a ride, if you whatever it is that I can do to help you out. Ooh, I got to the end. I got 3 more cards for you guys.
I can take a picture with your phones. Take a picture with your phones, or either I got some of them, I'll take copies, I'll get copies and I'll give them to y'all.
But I'm out. That's all I had. I'm short 3. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I really do appreciate you guys. You don't understand the level of excitement that I get when I see folks come into this class and enter into this program. Because there's a lot of people just a couple blocks away that could use something like this. And they don't even realize that they're this close away to being able to reach their full potential and their greatness. So the fact that you guys did see that and you took the opportunity, I commend you, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Brother DeLonne. As always, on behalf of St. Mary's Skills Center, man, and myself, man, it's just such an honor to have you in our presence, brother. And I just thank you for the love that you show into all of the students here, man. Just thanks for being here.
God is good, man.